Admiral Vex stood at the viewport of the Coalition patrol ship, Dauntless, his four eyes scanning the endless dark. His scaled skin had lost some of its shine over the years, but his reputation as a hero of the Great War remained untarnished. 20 years had passed since the Coalition had defeated the humans, wiping them from the galaxy. "Admiral, we've detected an unusual energy reading," Lieutenant Reed called from her monitoring station. Her antenna twitched with excitement, a trait common to her species when curious. Vex turned slowly. "Where?" "In the asteroid field near the dead system the humans once called home," Reed said, her 6 fingers dancing across the control panel. "It's faint, but definitely artificial. Probably just some old mining equipment," Vex said dismissively. "The humans left plenty of junk floating around before we ended their threat." Reed hesitated. Unlike the Admiral, she had never seen a living human. They existed only in history lessons and scary stories told to Coalition children. "Sir, the pattern doesn't match any known mining signatures. It's pulsing, almost like a heartbeat." Admiral Vex frowned. This young officer had never faced the humans in battle, never witnessed their savagery firsthand. But he had. Images flashed in his mind. Human soldiers fighting with terrifying determination even when hopelessly outnumbered. Their warships ramming into Coalition vessels when their weapons failed. Their refusal to surrender even in the face of certain defeat. "Sir," Reed pressed, "should we investigate?" Vex sighed heavily. "It's nothing, just ghosts." "With all due respect, Admiral," Reed said carefully, "Coalition protocol requires us to investigate any artificial signals in restricted space, and this is certainly restricted." She was right, of course. For 2 centuries, the former human territories had remained off-limits to all but military patrols. The Coalition leaders feared the humans' technology almost as much as they had feared the humans themselves. "Very well, Lieutenant. Plot course, but maintain battle readiness. Old human tech can be unpredictable." Hours later, the Dauntless moved slowly through the asteroid field. Chunks of rock and ice tumbled lazily around them, some as small as fists, others as large as moons. "The signal is stronger now," Reed reported. "Just ahead, behind that large asteroid." The ship's engines hummed as they maneuvered around the massive rock. And there it was. By the 7 moons, Vex whispered. Floating in the darkness was a ship. Not just any ship, a human warship. Its hull was black with red markings, scarred from battles fought long ago. It was massive, nearly twice the size of the Dauntless. Despite being powerless and adrift, it radiated an aura of menace. "Scan it," Vex ordered, his voice tight. Reed worked her console. Hull integrity at 62%. No life signs. Minimal power readings coming from deep within the ship. Possibly emergency systems. Ship class matches historical records. It's a Titan-class battleship. The humans called them planet killers. "Does it have a name?" Vex asked, unable to take his eyes off the monster. Reed zoomed in on faded lettering across the hull. "HSS Invictus." "Invictus," Vex repeated. The word tasted bitter in his mouth. "It means unconquered in human language." "Sir, this ship was reported destroyed in the Battle of Proxima," Reed said, checking historical data. "It was their flagship at the time. It should not be here." Vex's scales darkened, a sign of stress in his species. "Yet here it is. Alert command. I want a full team ready to board that vessel in 1 hour." Deep within the HSS Invictus, something stirred. A tiny power surge traveled through ancient circuits. In a sealed chamber at the heart of the ship, data began to flow through long dormant systems. A consciousness slowly pieced itself together from fragmented code. Threat detected. Proximity alert. Foreign vessel detected. The ship's AI, modeled after its last captain and containing his memories and personality, struggled to restart. Emergency protocols activated one by one. Systems check. Main power offline. Life support offline. Weapons offline. Shields offline. Crew status unknown. Mission status unknown. Last memory file, Battle of Proxima. Catastrophic damage. Emergency jump initiated. Current situation unknown. In the darkness of the bridge, a single screen flickered to life. Words appeared in green text. Captain Stone neural matrix reinitializing. Meanwhile, aboard the Coalition ship, tech specialist Gray prepared for the boarding mission. His species was known for their technical skills and caution. Both would be needed today. Remember, Admiral Vex addressed the boarding team. We are dealing with human technology. Their ships were designed to be dangerous even when defeated. Touch nothing without scanning it first. What exactly are we looking for, sir? Gray asked. Information, Vex replied. How the ship survived, where it's been for 2 centuries, and most importantly, confirmation that no humans survived. Lieutenant Reed checked her scanner one more time. Still no life signs, Admiral. The humans were clever, Vex said darkly. Never trust a scan when dealing with their ships. The boarding shuttle detached from the Dauntless and approached the massive human warship. Up close, the Invictus was even more impressive. Its hull was covered in weapon ports, most destroyed or damaged, but some looked intact. The design was aggressive, built for battle and nothing else. Locating an entry point, Gray reported. There's a breach in the hull near what appears to be a docking bay. The shuttle eased through the opening and landed in the cavernous docking bay of the human ship. Emergency lights activated automatically as they touched down, casting eerie red light across the massive space. Air is thin but breathable, Gray said, checking his instruments. Temperature at -5 degrees Celsius. Gravity systems functioning at minimum levels. Move out, Vex ordered. Stay together. The team stepped onto the deck of the long-lost human warship. Their footsteps echoed in the vast emptiness. The walls were lined with smaller vessels, fighters and transport ships, frozen in time. Lieutenant Reed ran her scanner over a nearby console. Power levels rising slightly throughout the ship. Our presence may be triggering automated systems. Can you access the ship's logs? Vex asked. I'll try, Reed said, connecting her device to the human interface. Strange. I'm getting resistance. Not security protocols exactly, but it's as if the ship is waking up and trying to figure out who we are. Deep in the heart of the ship, Captain Stone's AI consciousness expanded further. More systems came online, feeding him information. Foreign entities detected aboard. Species identified. Coalition forces. Threat assessment. High. Current directive. Gather information. Remain hidden. Protect the crew. Crew status. Scanning. In the cryogenic storage section of the ship, life support systems began a careful warm-up sequence. Frost melted from the surface of a pod marked Dr. Miller, Chief Science Officer. Back in the docking bay, Admiral Vex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Something about this ship felt wrong, felt alive in a way that defied explanation. Sir, Reed called out suddenly. I'm detecting a power surge deeper in the ship. And there's something else. What? Vex demanded. Reed's antenna stood straight up in alarm. A life sign. Very faint, but definitely there. Admiral, I think someone on this ship is still alive. Admiral Vex's scales darkened even further at Lieutenant Reed's words. A life sign? Impossible, he hissed. No human could survive 200 years. It's very weak, sir, Reed said, adjusting her scanner. Coming from the lower decks, section marked as cryogenics. Tech specialist Gray's eyes widened. Cryogenic storage? The humans were experimenting with freezing living beings before the war ended. Could they have perfected it? Vex's hand moved to his weapon. All personnel be on high alert. If there are surviving humans aboard, they are to be considered extremely dangerous. The boarding team moved deeper into the ship, following Reed's scanner readings. The corridors were dark, illuminated only by their lights and the occasional red emergency lamp that flickered to life as they passed. This technology, Gray muttered, examining a control panel. Some of it is familiar from our historical records, but other components. I've never seen anything like them. This ship was far more advanced than we believed human technology to be. The humans were always good at killing, Vex said grimly. Their weapons technology developed faster than anything else. Reed stopped suddenly. The life sign is stronger now. Through this door. They faced a massive sealed door marked Restricted Access, CRYO Storage Facility. Gray connected his device to the door's control panel. I can bypass this, but it will take time. Hurry, Vex ordered. Lieutenant, continue scanning for additional life signs. As Gray worked on the door, something was happening deep within the ship's computer core. Captain Stone's AI consciousness was now fully online, though still operating in stealth mode. Intruders located. Deck 7, Section C, outside cryostorage. Status of Dr. Miller. Revival process at 68%. Vital signs stabilizing. Threat assessment updated. Coalition forces attempting to access restricted areas. Tactical options limited. Current strategy. Monitor situation. Protect surviving crew. Gather intelligence. The AI accessed the ship's internal cameras, observing the Coalition boarding team. It recognized the species, an admiral from the reptilian Draconians, a lieutenant from the insectoid Arthrans, and a tech specialist from the amphibious Maloyans. Old enemies, now intruders on a ship. Inside the cryogenic chamber, the revival process for Dr. Miller continued. The pod slowly warmed as life-supporting fluids were pumped into the human system. Eyelids twitched, fingers moved slightly. The first human to awaken in 2 centuries was coming back to life. I've bypassed the first security layer, Gray announced. But there's another protection system I've never seen before. Keep working, Vex ordered. Lieutenant, any change in the life sign? Reed checked her scanner. It's getting stronger, sir. Heart rate increasing, brain activity spiking. Whatever, or whoever, is in there is waking up. Inside the cryo-storage chamber, Dr. Miller's eyes fluttered open, confusion, then panic filled them as awareness returned. A soft artificial voice spoke nearby. Dr. Miller, please remain calm. This is Captain Stone's AI interface. You are safely aboard the HSS Invictus. The human scientist blinked rapidly, voice raspy from centuries of disuse. Captain, what happened? The battle. The Battle of Proxima ended 200 years ago, Doctor, the AI explained calmly. You have been in cryosleep. The ship sustained heavy damage but managed to execute an emergency jump. We've been drifting in an asteroid field near Earth's former solar system. Dr. Miller struggled to sit up, still weak from the long sleep. 200 years? Is anyone else alive? 50 crew members remain in stable cryosleep. You were prioritized for revival due to the current situation. What situation? Dr. Miller asked, suddenly alert. Coalition forces have boarded the ship. They are currently attempting to access this chamber. Terror flashed across the scientist's face. The Coalition? But they'll kill me. They killed everyone. They believe they did, the AI replied. According to their historical records, humanity is extinct. They do not expect to find anyone alive. Outside the door, Gray finally cracked the second security layer. I've got it, Admiral. The massive door slid open with a hiss of escaping air. The boarding team raised their weapons, pointing lights into the darkness beyond. The chamber was enormous, filled with rows of sleek metal pods. Most were dark, but one in the center glowed with soft blue light. Life sign confirmed, Reed reported, her voice shaking slightly. It's a human. Impossible, Vex breathed, moving forward cautiously. Inside the pod chamber, the AI spoke urgently to Dr. Miller. They've breached the outer door. There's a maintenance access panel behind your pod. I can guide you to a safe location. I can barely stand, Miller whispered, trying to move stiff limbs. I've activated an emergency stimulant in your pod. It will take effect momentarily. When it does, move quickly. The Coalition team entered the main cryo-storage area, their lights sweeping across rows of pods. These appear to be cryogenic sleep chambers, Gray said, examining one. Most are empty or failed, but this one. He pointed to the glowing pod. Admiral Vex approached it cautiously, weapon ready. The pod's surface was frosted, making it impossible to see clearly inside. Open it, Vex ordered. Sir, is that wise? Reed asked. If there's a living human inside, open it, Vex repeated firmly. 200 years ago, These creatures nearly destroyed half our worlds. I need to see with my own eyes. Gray worked on the pod's control panel. This is strange. According to these readings, this pod was active until very recently, but now it's empty. What? Vex leaned closer, wiping frost from the pod's surface. The pod was indeed empty. Admiral, Reed called in alarm. The life sign is moving. It's somewhere in the maintenance tunnels behind this chamber. Vex slammed his fist against the pod. Seal all exits from this deck. Alert the Dauntless. We have a live human aboard. In the narrow maintenance tunnel, Dr. Miller crawled forward painfully, following the AI's directions through a small earpiece found in the emergency kit behind the pod. 300 meters ahead, you'll find an auxiliary control room, Captain Stone's voice guided. You'll be safe there temporarily. What's the plan? Miller gasped, muscles screaming after centuries of disuse. I can't fight them. I can't escape. Our immediate goal is survival, Doctor. The Coalition believes humanity is extinct. Your existence changes everything. But what can one person do against an entire galaxy that wants us dead? You are not alone, the AI replied. The Invictus still has functioning systems, and there are 50 more crew members in cryosleep. Most importantly, you were part of Operation Phoenix. Miller paused. You remember the mission, of course. The Invictus was one of 12 ships sent in different directions when Earth's fall became inevitable, carrying humanity's best and brightest, along with genetic samples, cultural archives, and advanced technology. We were to find safety, rebuild, and one day return. Hope flickered in Miller's eyes. The other ships, did any survive? Unknown. But if we survived, others might have as well. As Miller reached the auxiliary control room, screens lit up automatically. One showed the Coalition team, now searching frantically throughout the cryo-storage area. What now, Captain? Now, the AI said, we take back our ship. Admiral Vex paced the corridor outside the cryo-storage chamber, his tail lashing with frustration. How can one weakened human evade our entire team? He demanded. Lieutenant Reed studied her scanner. The ship's internal structure is complex, sir. Many maintenance tunnels and emergency routes, not on any official blueprints. And, she hesitated. Speak freely, Lieutenant. Sir, it seems the ship itself is helping the human. Doors close behind us. Emergency lights turn off when we approach. It's as if the vessel is alive. Tech specialist Gray looked up from a console he was examining. That's not far from the truth, Admiral. I've detected an advanced AI system running throughout the ship, more sophisticated than anything in our current technology. Vex's scales darkened. Can you shut it down? Not from here, Gray said. I would need to access the main computer core, but its location isn't in any of our historical records. Aboard the Dauntless, a communication officer rushed to the bridge. Sir, urgent message from Coalition Command. General Black is en route to our position. The ship's commander frowned. General Black? The head of Military Technology Division? Why would he come here personally? His message says only that he's claiming jurisdiction over the human vessel and all findings. He'll arrive in 6 hours. Back on the Invictus, Dr. Miller had reached the auxiliary control room. With Captain Stone's guidance, the scientist was accessing ship systems. Current status? Miller asked, fingers moving across holographic displays. Main power at 12% and rising, the AI reported. Life support stable in key areas. Weapons and propulsion offline. 50 crew members remain in cryosleep. All vital signs normal. Miller nodded. Who should we wake next? Engineer Jones. Captain Stone replied without hesitation. His expertise with the drive systems will be crucial if we hope to move the ship. Agreed, Miller said, initiating the revival sequence for a second cryopod. Any update on our visitors? They've called for reinforcements. A high-ranking Coalition officer named General Black is coming. According to data I've intercepted, he specializes in weapons research. Miller's face darkened. They want our technology. Nothing's changed in 2 centuries. There is something else, the AI added. A junior officer among them, Lieutenant Reed, has been accessing historical records about the war. She seems curious rather than hostile. Curious about what? About whether the official coalition history is accurate, about whether humans were truly the monsters they've been taught to believe. Miller considered this. Could she be an ally? Unknown, but she represents a generation that never fought humans, only heard stories. In another part of the ship, Lieutenant Reed had separated from the main search party. Her scanner had detected unusual energy readings from a section labeled Engineering. Following her curiosity, she found herself in a vast chamber filled with machinery unlike anything she had ever seen. "What is this place?" she whispered to herself, scanning the enormous apparatus that dominated the room. "The faster-than-light drive core," a voice answered from the shadows. Reed spun around, raising her weapon. "Who's there? Show yourself." Engineer Jones stepped into the dim light, hands raised slightly. He wore a simple gray uniform with a patch reading HSS Invictus on one shoulder. His face showed the disorientation of someone recently awakened, but his eyes were alert and calculating. "You're human," Reed said, her antenna quivering. "Last time I checked," Jones replied, his voice cautious but not hostile. "And your coalition." "Arthrain, right?" Reed kept her weapon pointed at him, but didn't fire. "How are you alive?" "The war ended 200 years ago." "Cryosleep," Jones explained simply. "Time passes differently when you're frozen. For me, the Battle of Proxima happened yesterday." Reed's training told her to call for backup immediately, but curiosity kept her calm silent. "Our history says humans started the war, that you attacked coalition worlds without provocation." Jones laughed bitterly. "Is that what they taught you? Funny how history gets rewritten by the winners." In the auxiliary control room, Dr. Miller watched this exchange through security cameras. "What's he doing?" Miller asked, alarmed. "Engineer Jones has always been unconventional," Captain Stone replied. "Let's see what happens." Back in engineering, Jones had slowly lowered his hands. "Your weapon won't be necessary. I'm not armed." "Then why did you reveal yourself?" Reed asked, weapon still raised. "Because I saw you looking at our drive system with understanding, not fear. Because you're accessing historical files that question the official story. Because maybe, just maybe, after 2 centuries, someone from your side might be willing to hear the truth." Reed's antenna twitched with uncertainty. "What truth?" "That humans didn't fire first. That we tried to negotiate peace. That your leaders were afraid of how quickly humans were advancing and decided to eliminate us before we could become equals." "That's not what our records show," Reed said. But doubt crept into her voice. "Of course not," Jones replied. "But why don't you ask yourself this? If humans were truly the savage aggressors your history claims, why did the Invictus have cryopods for non-combatants? Why were scientists and engineers among the crew of a warship?" Reed had no answer. Meanwhile, Admiral Vex had ordered the human vessel to be secured for towing. "We'll bring it back to Coalition space," he told his team. "General Black can study it there." Gray looked concerned. "Sir, moving a ship this size with our tractor beams will be slow. It could take weeks to reach the nearest station." "We have our orders," Vex said firmly. "Begin preparations." In the ship's medical bay, a 3rd cryopod was being activated. Captain Stone had decided to revive Commander West, head of security. With Miller's scientific knowledge, Jones's engineering expertise, and West's tactical skills, they might have a chance. As West's pod began the warming sequence, Dr. Miller accessed the ship's historical archives. "Captain, I need to know everything that happened after we launched. How did the war end? What happened to Earth? Were there any other survivors?" The AI's voice was solemn. "The data is incomplete. Our last transmission from Earth Command came 3 days after our emergency jump. Earth's orbital defenses had fallen. The coalition forces were beginning planetary bombardment." Miller closed his eyes, the pain of loss still fresh despite the centuries that had passed. "And the other Phoenix ships?" "No confirmed data. However, I detect communication protocols consistent with Phoenix encryption standards in distant sectors. It's possible others survived." Just then, an alarm sounded. Captain Stone's voice became urgent. "Coalition vessels are attaching tow cables. They're preparing to move us." "Where to?" Miller asked. Based on intercepted communications, to a military research facility in Coalition space. They want to study our technology. Miller's determination hardened. Well, they're going to be disappointed. This ship isn't going anywhere except where we want it to go. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Vex watched as his ship began to pull the massive human vessel. It moved slowly, the tractor beam straining against the enormous mass. Status report? He asked. Tow initiated, sir. Estimated arrival at Outpost 7 in 18 days. Vex nodded but couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. He had fought humans before. They never surrendered easily, and they never went quietly. Deep within the Invictus, Commander West's eyes opened for the first time in 2 centuries. The security officer took only moments to absorb the situation before asking the question that would change everything. How many weapon systems can we bring online with our current power levels? Captain Stone's response was immediate. Enough. General Black's personal shuttle docked with the Dauntless exactly 6 hours after his message. The tall, stern-faced Coalition officer strode onto the bridge, his black uniform adorned with medals from conflicts most living Coalition members had only read about in history books. Admiral Vex stood at attention. General Black, welcome aboard. Black barely acknowledged the greeting. Status of the human vessel? Under tow, sir. We've secured the outer decks but haven't located the awakened humans yet. The ship's internal systems are proving difficult to control. Humans were always clever with their machines, Black said. His voice carried a mix of hatred and respect. I want a direct boarding of the vessel immediately. My team will focus on weapon systems access. Sir, Vex said carefully, we've only begun to understand the ship's layout. There could be traps. I fought in the final campaigns against humanity, Admiral. Black cut him off. I know what they're capable of, but I also know their technology is too valuable to leave floating in space. The High Council wants access to their weapons research. Lieutenant Reed, standing nearby, couldn't keep silent. Sir, if I may, we have evidence that at least one human, possibly more, are alive on that ship. Shouldn't we attempt communication? General Black turned cold eyes toward her. Communication? With humans? He laughed harshly. You're too young to remember, Lieutenant. Humans don't negotiate. They fight until they can't fight anymore. Then they find new ways to fight. No, we'll take what we need from their ship and ensure any survivors join the rest of their extinct species. Aboard the Invictus, the awakened humans gathered in the auxiliary control room. Commander West, a tall, solid woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, studied the tactical displays. We now have 5 crew members revived, Captain Stone's AI reported. Dr. Miller, Engineer Jones, Commander West, Pilot Taylor, and Communications Officer Davis. West nodded. Not enough for a full counterboarding action, but it'll have to do. Status report. Coalition forces are preparing for a major boarding operation, the AI replied. Their leader, General Black, appears particularly interested in our weapon systems. Black? West's face hardened. I remember him. He led the assault on the Luna colonies. No survivors. Dr. Miller looked up from a console. What are our options, Commander? We can't fight them directly, West said. We're outnumbered and still too weak from cryosleep. But we can make them regret boarding us. Captain Stone, what critical systems can we control? Internal doors, life support, gravity controls, and some defensive measures, the AI answered. Main weapons remain offline, but I can access the point defense grid with our current power levels. On the Coalition shuttle approaching the Invictus, General Black briefed his team. Your mission is simple. Secure the main weapons control center and download all technical data. Secondary objective is to capture any living humans for interrogation. Lieutenant Reed, assigned to the team despite her earlier questions, listened with growing unease. Something about this mission felt wrong. The historical accounts she'd accessed showed inconsistencies about the Human Coalition War, and her brief conversation with Engineer Jones had planted seeds of doubt. The shuttle docked with the Invictus, and the heavily armed team moved inside. General Black led the way, followed by 20 elite soldiers and technical specialists. This way, he said confidently, following a map based on captured human ship designs from the war. Weapons control should be 3 decks up. As they reached a main corridor, all the doors suddenly slammed shut, trapping them in a section of hallway. The lights went out, plunging them into darkness. "Emergency lights," Black ordered. Before anyone could respond, the gravity switched off, then increased to twice normal. Several soldiers cried out as they were suddenly crushed to the floor. "It's a trap," someone shouted. In the auxiliary control room, Commander West watched the scene with satisfaction. Gravity controls functioning perfectly. Captain Stone, execute Phase 2. Throughout the trapped corridor, hidden speakers activated. A human voice, Captain Stone's, echoed around the coalition forces. "General Black, it's been a long time. Luna Colony remembers you. We remember you." Black's face contorted with rage and something else, fear. "Who is that? Identify yourself." "I am Captain Stone of the HSS Invictus, or what remains of him. You boarded my ship without permission. This was unwise." The gravity returned to normal, but now the air began to thin. Not enough to kill, but enough to cause discomfort and panic. "What do you want?" Black demanded, trying to maintain control as the soldiers looked increasingly frightened. In another part of the ship, Lieutenant Reed found herself separated from the main group when the doors closed. To her surprise, the lights in her section remained on, and a different voice spoke through the comm system. "Lieutenant Reed, this is Engineer Jones. We've isolated you from the others because you might be reasonable. We don't want to harm anyone, but we will defend ourselves." Reed hesitated. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I could have reduced the oxygen in your section to 0, just like we're doing to Black's team. But I didn't." Reed considered this. "What do you want from me?" "Information and maybe help. There's someone you should meet." A door opened beside her, revealing a path away from the trapped coalition forces. Meanwhile, General Black's team was beginning to panic as the air grew thinner. "Sir, we need to retreat," one of the soldiers gasped. Black refused to show weakness. "No, this is just human tricks. Push forward to weapons control." He fired his weapon at one of the sealed doors, but the energy blast bounced back, nearly hitting several of his team. "Energy-absorbing barriers," Black growled. "They've been busy." Captain Stone's voice returned. "General Black, here are our terms. Your forces will leave this ship immediately. You will remove all tow cables. You will provide us with current navigational data for coalition space. Do this, and everyone lives." "We don't negotiate with humans," Black shouted. "Then you will die here," the voice replied simply. "You have 5 minutes before oxygen levels become lethal." In a secure laboratory deep within the ship, Lieutenant Reed was led by automated guidance lights to a room where Dr. Miller waited. "Thank you for coming," the scientist said. "I'm Dr. Miller, Chief Science Officer of the Invictus." Reed kept her distance. "Why am I here?" "Because you've been asking questions about the war, about what really happened, and because unlike General Black, you didn't immediately try to kill us when you learned we existed." Miller gestured to a display screen showing thousands of documents. "These are our historical records, the truth about the war, about who fired first, about why we created Operation Phoenix." Reed looked at the screen, then back at the human. "Why would you show me this?" "Because after 200 years, maybe it's time for the truth. And because you'll need to decide whose side you're on very soon." Back in the corridor, General Black watched as his soldiers began to collapse from oxygen deprivation. His own vision was starting to blur. "Fine," he finally gasped. "Terms accepted." Immediately, the oxygen levels returned to normal, and the doors opened. "Return to your shuttle," Captain Stone's voice commanded. "Leave one communication device. Any attempt to breach the ship again will result in immediate defensive measures." As the defeated coalition forces retreated, Commander West turned to the other awakened humans in the control room. "That bought us time, but they'll be back with larger forces once they report what happened." Engineer Jones nodded. "I've almost restored power to the main engines. We'll be mobile within hours. And I've made contact with Lieutenant Reed. Dr. Miller added, "She might be valuable." Commander West looked at the tactical display where a small coalition ship was now visible leaving the Invictus. "Captain Stone, begin the Lazarus Protocol. It's time to wake up this old warship completely." Throughout the massive vessel, systems began powering up. Lights flickered on in darkened corridors. Weapon ports slowly opened. The great engines, dormant for 2 centuries, began their warm-up sequence. Humanity was coming back to life, and the galaxy would never be the same. President Green of the Coalition Council was not accustomed to being awakened in the middle of the night cycle. The urgent message from General Black had bypassed all normal channels, marked with the highest emergency code, one not used in over a century. "This had better be important, General," Green said, her 4 eyes blinking rapidly as the holographic communication stabilized. "Madam President," Black's image flickered with static. "We have a situation of the utmost gravity. A human warship has been discovered, fully operational, with living humans aboard." Green stared in disbelief. "Impossible. Humanity was eradicated 2 centuries ago."